says here we should work in teams. I tend to think of myself as a one-man wolf pack.
You're about to enter Information Overload, a worldwide transmission with H3-Brian's featured Breeder of the Week. Here's your host, Jason Rossi.
Welcome back to H3-Brian, a weekly worldwide transmission. I'm your host, Jason Rossi. We are simulcasting on RossiReptiles.com, Buzzsprout, and don't forget to subscribe and download us on iTunes. This week's featured breeder of the week is someone I found on YouTube shortly after I had started breeding ball pythons. His videos are very informative and definitely helpful. He is just an all-around nice guy. Brian Gundy from GoodnessSnakes.com is H3-Brian's special guest this week. Brian, welcome to the show.
All right, Jason, thanks a lot for having me. I appreciate it.
Awesome. Well, we appreciate you taking time out of your busy schedule and talking with us and having the masses hear you.
Yeah, my pleasure.
Well, first off, that last video was very well put together. Stephanie did a great job on that.
She did a fantastic job. I couldn't have been happier with the way it turned out, and I'm just so impressed and so, proud of her for what she's done. She just did a great job.
Yeah, it was really, really nice. I enjoyed it. So great job, Stephanie. So let's give our listeners a little background and history on the Gold Blush Mojave.
Okay. I had a feeling that might come up.
Why not?
Yeah.
That's what you're known for.
What was that, Jason?
I said that's what you're known for. So, well, one of the things you're known for. So.
Okay. Yeah, the way that whole project started, I'll take you guys back to the ultimate beginning. For about 10 or 12 years, I actually bred and sold colubrids. And through my colubrid days, I met a gentleman by the name of Dwayne Richard. And there was a time when I was going to sell out, well, I actually did, and sold out my colubrid collection. And I had every intention of, taking that money. I was probably producing about 200 or 300 colubrids per year. And I was going to take that money and sell the collection and go out and maybe do some traveling. I wanted to go to places like Tahiti and Australia and places. And as I was in the process of selling out my colubrid collection, I saw my first photograph of a pied, and immediately had this, thought, well, gosh, I've never seen a snake that looks so beautiful. So I thought I would go ahead and take that money that I had gained from selling my colubrid collection and reinvested it into ball pythons and boas. So during my colubrid days, I met Dwayne Richard, who at that time was Dan and Colette Sutherland's partner, the snake keeper. And so I called up Dwayne, and I basically gave him my shopping list of all the animals that I wanted to purchase, and I had no intentions of purchasing from, I just wanted to purchase from Dan and Colette, and because they had such a huge collection and such a good name in the industry, I thought, let's just go ahead and do some one-stop shopping. So I gave Dwayne my shopping list, and during the process of picking out the animals that I was going to purchase from them, Dwayne told me that they would go ahead. They agreed that they would take their year's worth, or the collection of Mojaves that they had produced for that year, and they would go through the animals and pick out the three best Mojaves of that season. And then I met them at the Anaheim show. This was probably about 9 years ago. And so I was lucky enough to really take my pick of what the breeders decided were their top 3 Mojaves of that season. I went to the Anaheim show, picked what I thought was the best of the 3 males that they had picked, and it was just a gorgeous animal, by far probably one of the most beautiful Mojaves I'd ever seen up until that point. And so, and what I was really excited about too was that Colette had done such a great job in not only producing morphs, but she was doing a phenomenal job at the time of producing normals that were just out of this world. I mean, I remember prices that Colette had on some of her normals at the time, where she was selling normals for $400 and $500. They were just, and they were selling at those prices. So anyway, I took the male, what I call the patriarch male Mojave that I purchased from Dan and Colette, took him home, and at the time I had about 48 normal females that I was basically picking and choosing from, and bred that male to several of the females. At that time, the following year, I think I produced only one Mojave, which I kept back. And then through the course of years, basically continued working with the project. I remember calling up one of the top breeders in the country, Ralph Davis, and asking him if he thought that there would be sort of a niche for grading Mojaves. And at that time, he told me that he thought that the Mojave project was, sort of becoming a base project, and whether or not people would actually be able to sort of grade them and then price them accordingly. He didn't see that the market was going to work out for Mojaves in that direction. And at the time, I pretty much agreed with him. So anyway, I just kept selectively breeding my Mojaves, and through the course of time was producing animals that showed a little bit more blushing than most of other Mojaves that were being produced at the time. And some of my customers would call up and say, Brian, we'd like to look at some pictures of your blushing Mojaves or your high blush Mojaves. Excuse me. And so, then progressively, I'd have customers calling me up and they'd say, well, can we look at pictures of your gold blush Mojaves or the gold blushing Mojaves? So the term gold blush sort of, metamorphosized really by my customers calling them what they basically thought they looked like. They, to them, they looked like a Mojave that had a lot of blushing, and in some cases, the higher quality animals showed that there was actually some gold or yellow coming up from the flames and moving into the blushing. So that's basically how that project started. Through the years, I selectively bred and produced quite a few. But, it's interesting that I know that For Goodness Snakes is known for the Mojave project and the selective breeding that I've done with that project. But what's interesting is that not only that my Mojaves are related, most of my Mojaves, most of my pieds are related, most of my pastels are related, most of my bumblebees are related. Most of just about every project that I'm working with, I have focused on, rather than trying to produce what breeders are trying to produce, the first one of that kind, first combo-morph or whatever, I really haven't focused on trying to be the first on the block to produce a certain morph or combo-morph. I've really been focused more on trying to take the base morphs and really, through selective breeding, trying to improve, sort of redefine what those morphs can look like. And that's basically what my focus has been through the years with my ball python and boa project.
Fine-tuning them through line breeding?
Yes, exactly. Yep. Years ago, I used to race pigeons, competitively raced pigeons. And we had a saying at the time, breed from the best and get rid of the rest. And that's basically what I've what I'm doing with the breeding projects with the ball pythons and boas. My focus is really based on the fact that I am my first customer. And I know a lot of people have said this, but the selling of the snakes is really not my motivation in this hobby or profession or whatever. It's really trying to produce the nicest looking animals that I can keep for myself. So that's really what it comes down to when I'm working with the different breeding projects. My goal is to really produce holdbacks, and anything that doesn't meet my requirement as a holdback then gets sold, and that's basically how I run my business.
That's basically where we're at. So the gold blush jewel, I know it's a little darker. What's the deal with that?
Yeah, the gold blush jewel is, the father is one of my patriarch gold blush Mojaves, and the jewel comes from a normal female that I have called the jewel, simply because she just is outstanding, an outstanding normal. She's just very bright.